So now the next question is, yes, homeostasis is organisms. Options are disturbance in regulatory control, the tendency to change with change in environment, plants and animals extracts used in homeopathy, tendency to resist the change. Now look at the options, student. Out of the four, ಯಾವುದು ನಿಮಗೆ connected ಕಾಣುವುದಿಲ್ಲ? Okay, look at that. This option actually, if you see, is not connected because it is talking something about homeopathy treatment. Okay, this is not connected at all. Now look at the other option. I hope you remember now previous sessions that questions nalli discuss ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ one point. Body actually cope up ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ stress, external stressಗೆ ಹ್ಯಾಂಗೆ cope up ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ? ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು, ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಟರ್ಸ್, ಕನ್ಫರ್ಮರ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ಪಾರ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲೇಟರ್ಸ್. I will come back to that point. Now look at the students. As we said, the environment has got various factors like temperature, light, water, whatever the soil, etc. So these abiotic factors will never remain the same throughout our lifetime. Correct ಅಲ್ಲ? ಇದು factors every now and then change ಆಗುತ್ತೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. So ನಿಮ್ದು ಬಾಡಿದು ಟಾಸ್ಕ್ ಏನು? Body should maintain a stability irrespective of the changes happening outside. And yes, body tries to maintain a stability. And we study different organism, ಬೇರೆ type adopt ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. Similarly, there are some group of organism which can try to maintain that stability irrespective of the changes happening outside. And that is what we are discussing now. And that is actually called as homeostasis. ಅಂದ್ರೆ homeostasis ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? Maintaining a steady state irrespective of the external changes happening in the environment. Right? So whatever changes are happening outside, body still tries to make sure that I am maintaining a steady state. That's it. Right? And this is what defining homeostasis basically is the body's ability to resist the change. A tendency to resist the change. If you see, even that is again not connected. Tendency to change with change in temperature, no. That is again not been the answer here. And of course not even this too. And the answer would be given with the best example of this, that is temperature. Now imagine a condition, ನೀವು classroom ನಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ? AC ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಚಿಲ್ಲಿಂಗ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಅಂದರೆ ತುಂಬ ಕೋಲ್ಡ್ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಇದೆ. ಆವಾಗ ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು? ಅಫ್ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ನೀವು ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಂದ ಹೊರಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ, ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಡ್ಜಸ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ? ಬಾಡಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಆವತ್ತು ನೋಡಿ, ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಸ್ಲೋಲಿ ಲೋ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ? ನಿಂದು ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ರೂಮ್ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ತುಂಬ ಕೋಲ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. That time body starts shivering. The message comes from the brain, okay? The body starts shivering, and shivering is a type of exercise, right? Which burns calories. So when the calories are burned, automatically it releases heat, and you are now being able to adjust to that external condition of cold temperature. So due to shivering, somehow your body temperature is maintained back to normal, right? So that can we say it's one of the beautiful example of homeostasis. Similarly, imagine if you are in a very situation where there is a high temperature. Okay, you are surrounded by a very high temperature, too hot temperature. That time what's going to happen? Your skin temperature, if you see, is going to be very hot. If the temperature raises in such a condition of hot condition for a very longer time, don't you think it will damage the cells, in turn deactivating the enzymes, because enzymes are very sensitive towards high and low temperature. So in this case, if your body is subjected to high temperature, enzymes will get deactivated and it will cause damage to the cells. So what is the body going to do now? This is what the solution given by the body. What it does, you know, you start sweating. So when you start sweating, your skin gives out the sweat and it acts like a thermoregulator. It acts like a thermoregulator, and in turn, your skin temperature is maintained. And that is how body tries to maintain a stability irrespective of the changes which happen right now. So these were two stunning examples which we can give for homeostasis. And as said, answer here is the tendency to resist change is called as what? Homeostasis. Okay. I hope you are now clear with the concepts of homeostasis, conformers, regulators and partial regulators, right? Okay. Now another question related to that. When we are in a hot room, we sweat profusely. We sweat profusely is what act? Thermoregulation. What is it? Thermoregulation. Correct, Allah? It is a dash means of maintaining homeostasis. Look at the options here now. Morphological, physiological, behavioral, none of these. Acha students nange salpa meaning helu ha. Morphological andre ಏನು? Yes. Morphological and the structural changes. So you can say morphological meaning the changes happening at the structural level. Structural changes. Correct? Okay. Physiological andre ಏನು? Changes happening at the internal level. You can say biochemical changes or pathway, biochemical pathway changes. Correct? Behavioral. Yeah, behavioral andre ಏನು? Type of, leaving the place, migration, etc. So changing the place, like example, migration and all will be coming under the behavioral changes. So if you see, when we start sweating, that comes under which type of changes? Very right. That is going to be the option B, that is physiological changes, because you're altering the physiology of your body. Correct? Okay. So here we went to the next question, and now we are back to a new concept again, that is adaptation. Adaptation, quickly I will give you some beautiful examples and why do we do that. Okay. Students nodi, now ivattu just we discuss ಮಾಡಿದೀವಿ ಅಲ್ಲ, in order to cope up with the external climatic condition, organisms main priority ಏನು? ಅವರು ಸರ್ವೈವ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು. So survival is a very important point of an organism, and of course survival to the fittest. It should be able to survive and reproduce to the production of the next generation. So survive ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆರ್ಗನಿಸಮ್ ತುಂಬ ಕಷ್ಟ ತಗೊಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಅಂದರೆ ತುಂಬ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಬಾಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಟಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಹಿಯರ್. So the changes can be of various types. So in the previous session also we had discussed related to this. So dash is an attribute. Okay, look at that now. Dash is an attribute wherein an organism's morphological, physiological and behavioral to survive and reproduce in its habitat. What is it now? Look at that. Is it called as migration or hibernation or adaptation or homeostasis? Now out of the four options, nimge sariyagi gottu. What is homeostasis? Maintaining what? Steady state. Migration also ಗೊತ್ತು ನಿಮಗೆ ಏನು? In order to cope up with stressful, organism migrate ಆಗುತ್ತೆ from one place to another. ಆಮೇಲೆ ವಾಪಸ್ ಅದು ಒರಿಜಿನಲ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ? ಅದು ಮೈಗ್ರೇಷನ್, ಲೈಕ್ ಬರ್ಡ್ಸ್, ರೈಟ್? ಹೈಬರ್ನೇಷನ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೊಸ ವರ್ಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲ? ಓಕೆ, ಐ ಗಿವ್ ಅಗೇನ್ ಅ ಸ್ಟನ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್. ಹೈಬರ್ನೇಷನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಏನು? ನೋಡಿ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಪೋಲಾರ್ ರೀಜನ್ಗೆ ಸಮ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಟೆಂಪ್ರೇಚರ್ ತುಂಬ ಲೋ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ to cope up with the extreme cold condition, polar bears undergoes a sleeping period. Now undergoes a sleeping period, which is actually called as winter sleep. Actually called as winter sleep. So when they are in the sleeping period, they will try to overcome the unfavorable phase, right? And slowly then after the favorable condition sets in, they come back to normal active life. So that will be called as winter sleep, which is nothing but termed as hibernation. Next, what is left out? Of course, answer here, you are in the right track, and the answer here is what? Adaptation. Correct. So in this question, I gave you the concept of adaptation. So can you give me some examples of adaptation? I give you one hint, okay? The hint is cactus plant. Aloe vera, cactus plant, ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ಅಲ್ಲ? Tell me quickly the adaptation of the cactus plant. Cactus plant ಗೆ ನೀವು ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲ? ಅದು cactus plant ಗೆ ಲೀಫ್ ಇರುತ್ತಾ? Correct? Leaf are absent. ಯಾಕೆ? Because the plant is living in a desert region. So since it is in a desert, it is xeric condition. The plant does not have the capacity to lose water. It cannot afford to lose water. So it will try to conserve water. And that's the reason the leaves are modified into something called as a stem, which is here fleshy in condition. Right? And that is going to do photosynthesis. And you know what is it called as? Phylloclade. Correct? So phylloclade is going to be the performer for photosynthesis. So where is the leaf now? Leaf has got modified to spines. Spines irutte avrige. Okay? So that is one adaptation shown by the xeric plants, which are also called as what? The xerophytes. Also called as what? The xerophytes. So xerophytes andre enu? Plants living in zero level of water. Zero level of the water. So here you can understand that this is one such example of adaptation. Like that, there are many such adaptations shown by the organism in order to survive in the difficult conditions, right? And of course, that is not a one step. It requires several times, several ages. Continually they produce that adaptation. Then it sets one character. So this was one such glimpse of what is that adaptation, right? Okay, now we move on to the next question, and here we go. Deep sleep of some animals, okay? Sleep of some animals during winter, and you are here before me answering. What is it? Winter, andre enu? Okay, here the options are. So you know what is the meaning of migration, correct? Migration matlab the changing of the place. For unfavorable period, they will escape for some time. That is temporary escape, right? So this was a kind of temporary escape. Okay, this was a kind of temporary escape. Again, this was a kind of temporary escape. I gave you the best example of suspend. What was that? Seeds showing dormancy, right? The stunning example of seeds showing dormancy, correct? And now you know this also, and yes, the answer here is hibernation. Man, let me tell you what is this aestivation. The way you have seen, this is called as winter sleep. Similarly, aestivation is nothing but the summer sleep shown by the snails. Okay, in order to avoid or escape the high temperature condition. That's why it is called as what? The summer sleep. So when the condition sets in normal, they come back to the active life. So these are some ways of coping up with the unfavorable climatic period shown by the organism. So as I said, organism complete try ಮಾಡ್ತದೆ in order to survive at the best maximum level by adopting one or the other means, right? Okay. So look at the beautiful example here. So you have here the polar bear showing or undergoing the process that is hibernation, right? It has been found that they undergo hibernation for at least maximum of 90 days also. That means when they undergo for hibernation for 90 days, just imagine the amount of energy they are conserving. That's a very beautiful aspect shown by the nature, that animals are showing other ways to escape the unfavorable period. Yeah. So here, as I said, the answer was option B. Now, the next question here. Just as a person moving from Delhi to Shimla to escape the heat under, that means unfavorable condition, right? For the duration of hot summer, thousands of migratory birds from Siberia and other extreme cold northern regions move to. When I say birds, migration, that means it is a time to escape from the unfavorable period that is temporarily done by them. And you know where they move to actually? Yeah, this is what we need to know. That is Colorado National Park. And the option here is answer A. A very important question, students. Okay, we move on to our next question, and that next question is based on population interaction. Population interaction andre ಏನು students? Okay, I give you some hint, okay, here. Two organisms ಇರುತ್ತೆ. Okay, ಇದು two organisms ಗೆ, for example, organism A and organism B. Organism A ಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ help ಬೇಕು. Organism B ಗೆ ಕೂಡ help ಬೇಕು. Organism A ಇಂದ. That's why organism A and B will end up with one association. So like that you will find many different associations which will help, or sometimes there is a harm been done to one organism, or sometimes they are not affected at all. So there are some associations which will be called as population interactions. So let us now throw some light on the various interactions with some examples. And here we go with the first question. Mycorrhizae are the examples of. So mycorrhizae is actually a structure. If you see mycorrhizae appears to be an example of, and the options are fungistasis, Amensalism, antibiosis, mutualism. Now before I go to the actual answer, let me speak about this. Students, we are going to learn about this in our next slide, okay? So we'll leave here itself and I give you a hint, this is not the answer, okay? Okay. Fungistasis means stopping the fungal growth. Correct, Allah? And left out is mutualism. So let us now try to understand this concept from this example. Okay. ಇದು ಪಿಕ್ಚರ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಏನು ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಮತ್ತು ಒಂದು ಫಂಗಸ್. ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದಿದೆ ಮಶ್ರೂಮ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಇದು ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಫಂಗಸ್ ಇದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಏನು ನೋಡುವ. ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ಹೈಯರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಟ್ರೀ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಹೈಯರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಇದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಏನಂದರೆ sometimes the root cannot fix the minerals properly, difficult with fixation of the minerals. But the good part is what? Plant is a autotroph. Autotroph andre yenu? Making food on its own. Okay, look at the problem of the fungus now. Fungus is the life is the first problem yenu? They cannot make food on their own. That's why fungus is basically a heterotroph. That means they cannot make food on their own, right? The best part is what, they can fix with the soil properly. That is a fungal hyphae. Fungal hyphae are like the network of fibers, filaments, which can actually anchor to the soil better, okay? And that is holding to the substratum. So what is going to happen here now? The fungal hyphae tries to form a mesh of network with the plant roots. So can you see here this network happening? This network of the fungal hyphae with the plant roots, network of fungal hyphae with the plant root, that network will be termed as a structure called as mycorrhizae. Called as what? Mycorrhiza. Okay, so what is the answer here going to be? Acha, don't you think so? Both are helping each other. Fungus is helping the plant root by absorbing and giving the minerals to the plant root, which was a problem for the plant root. And plant is happy getting that minerals, and yes, in turn it is going to give right food, and ready fungus is getting the food from the plant here. So both the problems are solved. They are helping out each other equally. That's why in a mutual understanding, and that interaction is called as what? Mutualism. Gotaita? So this type of interaction where both are helping each other will be called as plus interaction. So this is one example, both are in a plus, both are benefited. Such type of interaction is called as positive interaction. Called as what? The positive interaction. Gotaita? So one such beautiful example was the mutualism, and the answer here is what? Mutualism. Answer option D. Okay, move on to this again. We will be learning more interactions here. The next question is, if plus sign is assigned to beneficial interaction, negative sign to the detrimental and harmful, and zero sign to neutral. So you have three things here: beneficial for positive, detrimental for that is negative, zero for neutral. Then the population interaction presented with plus and minus. So you have to find out which is the interaction which is having plus and minus type of interaction. So and the options here I give you with examples, okay? Mutualism, where you studied right now, yeah, we're helping each other equally, right? So that we're both plus and plus, correct? Next comes is Amensalism. Look at this, students. Now this is something very new to you. Amensalism can be best explained by a fungus. Now imagine, now this is one fungus called as Penicillium, correct? This Penicillium will produce the chemical penicillin, okay? And this penicillin will be killing the bacteria. So if you see in this case, bacteria are killed. Andre adu yenagutte? Negative interaction. But fungus ಗೆ ಏನು ವಾಪಸ್ ರಿಟರ್ನ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕುತ್ತಾ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಟೀರಿಯಿಂದ? ಇಲ್ಲ. Fungus gain benefit ಸಿಕ್ಕುತ್ತಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ. So that's why fungus is neither harmed nor benefited, but it remains neutral. So that is going to be the example of what? A neutral organism, wherein it just does the job of production of toxin, and this toxin will be killing the bacteria. But yes, in turn, toxin producing organism is not getting benefited, and it's in the neutral position. So this will be a kind of a zero and negative interaction. That is called as Amensalism. Amensalism will be also called as antibiosis, the concept what I explained, okay, antibiosis. Next comes a very, very beautiful example, students. You know what is this? A whale. I take you to one more example. Look at this, the whale. You know, a whale actually helps out one organism, that is barnacle. Barnacle is actually an organism, aquatic organism, which finds difficulty in obtaining food. Okay, it's a small animal which is finding difficult in obtaining the food, because in such big ocean finding food is not so easy for the barnacle. So barnacle yen plan ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ? Barnacle, these are the barnacles. They will attach themselves to the mouth or the body of the whale in such a manner, whatever the whale will eat, or okay, forget about that, whatever whale is eating, wherever the whale goes, it will give a free ride to the barnacles. So wherever the whale will go, barnacle will travel with the whale with a free ride, yes, and wherever they will get food, they will try to consume it. That is what the relationship wherein the barnacles, if you see, are actually benefited, and yes, the whale is not benefited, not harmed, and that is what we called it as what? Plus and minus, the interaction called as commensalism, right? Barnacles on whale is the best example for commensalism. Look at that next one now, what we are going to talk, cattle egret. You must have seen these students. Elli ನೀವು ನೋಡಬಹುದು ಇದು. Whenever you travel, you know, in a village and all, you will find one cattle will be there, and beside the cattle you will find such birds, that is called cattle egret. So these egrets, okay, will be near and about or over the cattle. So in such a way that wherever the cattle will walk, this bird, that is egret, is going to do what, you know? Just peck into the soil and try to catch the worms. So anyhow, the cattle is going to eat the grass. So when it eats the grass, adella root horge barutta. Correct alla? So when the root comes out, it becomes easier for the egret to hunt for the worm, and slowly it will eat the worm. So don't you think so? This is again a type of interaction where the egret is benefited, again cattle is not benefited, neither harm. That's again a type of the plus and zero interaction. And one such example what we can put here is about the parasitism, wherein you can see two organisms interacting here. For example, imagine now this is one host plant, okay? This is one host plant, right, which is capable of making food on its own properly. That means it is completely photosynthesizer, photosynthesis, it performs photosynthesis, and there is a creeper which cannot make food on its own. So imagine now this is the creeper plant, and now this creeper will try to surround the host plant in such a way that it produces needle-like structures called as hostoria, that is hostorial roots, okay, which will suck into the xylem and the phloem of, or you can say vascular bundles of the host plant, and try to grab the nourishment of the host plant. So in this case, you can see that the benefited one, that is a parasite, is in positive relationship, and the plant is getting damaged, that is negative. So again, parasitism is going to be a plus minus type of the interaction. Right, one is benefited, another one is harmed. So this was the 4 examples, and now we come to the options here. Before that, I just quickly summarize this now. You know, there is some different type. As I said, mutualism, we know very well now. This is plus and plus interaction where both are benefited. Competition is one such where both are harmed because there is a damage to both of the organism which are taking part in the competition. Predation is something, there is a predator and a prey, where the prey population is damaged and the predator is been benefited, right? Parasitism, as we discussed right now, plus and minus, one benefited, one harmed. Commensalism is one benefited, one is neither harmed nor benefited, and Amensalism is one is harmed, and the another one is neither harmed, and it remains neutral and nor benefited also. It remains neutral completely. So these are some of the examples of the interaction shown between the organism, and yes, we come to the options here. So the plus and minus refers to which type of interaction, students? Yes, you're very, very right. Answer yenu heltira? And that is what? Parasitism. Okay. Cuscuta was the best example. I forgot to tell you about that. Cuscuta is the best example of a parasite, okay, on the host plant. Okay. So now we move on to the next question now about the praying mantis. Praying mantis is a good example of, okay, it's an insect basically. Let us try to understand what property does it adopt, okay? Camouflage, Mullerian mimicry, warning coloration, social insect. Now out of the 4 options, students, this is not connected, okay? Let me tell you what is the meaning of camouflaging. Camouflage andre trying to match with the surrounding background, okay? For example, let us talk about the praying mantis. If you see, praying mantis is an insect basically which catch hold of the prey. So this praying mantis is so smart that it will try to camouflage itself in such a way that the organism which it is supposed to be consuming will be unaware of its presence, and that is how it can catch hold of the prey. Meanwhile, also praying mantis escapes its own predation, okay, by matching itself with the background, that is by showing the property of camouflaging property, right? So here in this case you can see clearly on the green grass background, actually nimge gottagudilla illi praying mantis present ide, correct alla? So that property shown by this is going to be camouflaging, and the answer here is camouflage. Now before that we will discuss also about something called as Mullerian mimicry. We will be talking about this in detail about in our regular sessions also, student, but quickly I can summarize. It's a type of, you can say a mimicry, or it's basically the biological resemblance, okay, shown by 2 or 3 unrelated species closely showing the warning systems, okay. So that is what basically the Mullerian mimicry. And warning coloration. Warning coloration can be best explained in the case of, coloration adopted or produced by the organism to escape predation. Like, the bright colored frogs are how they can escape their predation. So that is something called coloration. That is basically warning coloration. So these are some of the examples, and yes, praying mantis, as I said, the answer here would be option A, that is praying mantis. So you can make out clearly here. Praying mantis uses this ability to fool their own predators, and yes, that's why it's a good example of the camouflaging. One more example of camouflage also we can give here is a chameleon. Chameleon also shows the camouflaging property, right? In the lower standards you must have studied about that. Okay, so next we move on to the question. Which of the following is categorized as a parasite in the true sense? Okay, before we take this question, I want to give a glimpse of the parasitism. As we discussed in the previous slides, parasitism is an interaction of plus and minus. That means one is benefited, another one is harmed. And one thing is very important, student, the association should be obligate. Obligate andre enu? Compulsory. So then only there will be one benefited, one completely harmed. So look at the options here now. The cuckoo lays its egg in crow's nest. Human fetus developing inside the uterus draws nourishment from the mother. Female Anopheles mosquito bites and sucks blood from humans. Head loose, living on the human scalp as well as laying eggs on human hair. Okay, so this is something you can make out. Let me talk about the first one. Cuckoo lays, and here the example with the image here. So cuckoo actually lays its eggs in the nest of the crow. And you won't believe, the egg of the cuckoos and the egg of the crow are a little bit similar with respect to size. And actually the crow cannot realize or recognize that it is the egg of the cuckoo. So in that case, if you see, this is a host egg. So if you see the shape similar to that of the host egg, and the parasite's egg will be appearing like this. Of course, that much differences they can't make out. Basically it goes with the shape and slightly with the color, okay. So what does a parasite bird do here? Parasite will lay its egg in the crow's nest and let it get incubated by the host. So host here is going to be the crow. Okay, but one more important thing. Now you must be thinking here there is a parasite, that means it is going to be the option here. No, the option here is not correct, because this interaction between the host and the parasite is only for a short time, short duration. That means it is not going to be dependent throughout the lifetime. Only for some time the incubation is given by the host bird. So that's why this is not the correct option here, and in fact this is basically called as a type, that is brood parasitism. Called as what? Brood parasitism. We will be discussing about that in our regular session, student, in detail with many more examples. Okay, so this was option and that is not correct answer for that. Next is the growing, that is a fetus absorbing the nourishment. Again, this cannot be the example or answer for the question, because the mother is not harmed here. As we had discussed, plus and minus, one is benefited, one is harmed. So here of course the baby is getting benefited, but in turn the mother is not been harmed. Again, that is not the right answer. Next we can go to the example, the female Anopheles mosquito. Remember in human health and disease we had studied female Anopheles mosquito tries to complete the life cycle of the malarial parasite. So answer here, if you see the option clearly, female Anopheles mosquito is actually not the parasite. In fact, the parasite is a malarial parasite, that is a plasmodium, but the option here doesn't indicate the plasmodium. It is saying female Anopheles mosquito is a parasite. Next is the last option, that is head loose. Yeah, and you can see here the head loose actually is the answer, correct, and that is what you can see living on the human scalp, and you can see here properly it tries to get nourishment on the lifelong basis. That means this type of interaction is for throughout the lifetime. So this interaction between the head loose and the the human will be for a long term. This is a kind of obligate relationship. So that's why the option here is a perfect sense of the parasitism is option D, that is head loose. Okay, there is a mistake here, it should be head loose, student. I am very sorry for that, right? Okay, next question, and here we go. Sedentary sea anemone gets attached to the shell of hermit crab. Now see, can you see here two organisms, hermit crab and sea anemone, and this interaction is called at. Let us talk about the examples, options: symbiosis, amensalism, ectoparasitism, commensalism. Now in this case, if you see, students, symbiosis and mutualism is almost same. Amensalism was a type like I discussed about the fungal production of the toxin. Example, antibiosis I had given. Commensalism, again now we come to the one more example of commensalism. Look at this example, beautiful example. Here is a hermit crab, and above the hermit crab you can see one sea anemone. This sea anemone, if you see, basically wants to gather the food. So this sea anemone will be really very happy to take a free ride on the hermit crab. The hermit crab is going to give a free ride, okay, to the sea anemone. And meanwhile, the sea anemone will gather the food. So wherever when it is moving, it will try to capture the food via its tentacles and it will consume the food. So in this case, you can see that who is benefited? Yes, the sea anemone is benefited. So plus, and the hermit crab is neither benefited nor harmed. That's why it is 0. So the example which we are discussing here is for plus and 0. That is what? Commensalism, right? Go to the next question now. It is based on competition, okay? And high density of elephant population in an area can result in. It is just talking about which population? Only one species population, that is elephant population. There are different types of the competition. Predation on one another is not possible because they are falling in the same species, right? Something called as mutualism also not. So there is nothing connected with these two, correct? They are not the answers here. Let us talk about what is intraspecific and interspecific. So if the competition for the food source, okay, it can be food, etc., is happening between the same species, okay, between the same species, that will be called as intraspecific, that is same species competition, correct? And if the competition is happening between different species, okay, for food, etc., that will be called as interspecific. So this is different specific species competition, interspecific, and intra is the same species competition. So the answer here, I'm talking about elephant population. That means, yes, very simple. It is going to be option B, that is intraspecific competition. Okay, students, so here today we understood the important concepts of the chapter, that is organisms and population. Yes, students, I hope you have understood all the MCQs so far what we have discussed, and moreover student, as I said, this chapter is actually a very simple chapter. Moreover, it's very simple, but the problem is it's very elaborate. It's a very huge concepts involved. In fact, you need to know some examples on this concepts. So the only thing for you is a revision. Revise this chapter a lot many times so that the examples will be at your fingertips. That's the only thing in this chapter. Otherwise, this is a very, very simple chapter. So next, what is the important thing? You know, there are some aspects which we'll be dealing in detail when we take our regular sessions of the entrance level, right? So now I have a interesting news for you all. You know, you want to hear what is it? Yes, we at Diksha are going to conduct a CET crash course. And yes, student, this crash course is going to be for the duration of 45 days. You won't believe, in this 45 days, you will be trained to such a level that you can solve the questions in a very lesser time and try to get the maximum marks. And that is what the dream of every CT aspirant, right? And what is next aspect about this? You know, it is just going to commence after your board exam ends. And then this good news of this course is what, you know, it is going to be for the residential as well as the non-residential students too. So if you want to be amongst the toppers or achievers like this, please do enroll. You know who are our achievers? Look at them. Some of the achievers so far: Ronak Birangi with 2nd rank, Pallavi with 3rd rank, Siddhartha with 5th rank, Vaishnav with 6th rank. And I repeat once again, if you want to be amongst one of the toppers, and if you dream of getting into the one of the best colleges, see to it that you join this CET crash course. And now, why and what are you waiting for? Just call on this number and register yourself. Call at the number 1800-102-4109. And yes, please press the link given below. From that, you'll get to know the information related to this course. And also students, from this session, I hope you understood the entire session very well. And if you like the session, please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Please share the video to the students or your friends who are actually aspiring for and appearing for the entrance exam. It will be of some help for them too. So by then, Dr. Smita Narayan Karthik signing off for today. Thank you students, and we'll be right back with our next session.